Hello. Many of you may probably have thought that there will be never another video again, and yet here I am 6 months later. And the reason why I'm making this video is because something spectacular has happened. This. I got my author copy, or rather my translator's copy, day before yesterday. And I have been on cloud nine, and I've been waiting to make this video since then. And the reason why I'm making this video especially is not just because of this book, but because 24th of March also marks the 20th death anniversary of Krishnagopal Mallick, who died in 2003. When he died, he probably had absolutely no idea that 20 years later, his work would be translated into English and would be published in this incredibly beautiful volume by a major national publisher. This is something that was perhaps something that was beyond his dreams. He could never have imagined it. He was not very well known during his lifetime outside of the very small circle of little magazines. I'm hoping that this book is going to change matters, and people are going to regard Krishna Gopal Mallick as a major writer. This book contains two of his short stories and one novella. And I have chosen those two short stories and that novella especially because I think those are the works in which Krishna Gopal delves into his life, delves into his sexuality, delves into whatever interests him, and spends a lot of time um, just describing it, trying to recreate his childhood, and so I thought that these are the three narratives that might be interesting to translate. I really began by translating a very short story called Senior Citizen, which is here. And then I said it to a couple of friends, look, I've actually done this translation. Would you mind having a look at it? And so Shayantan Mitra, who suggested Krishna Gopal Mallick to me in the first place, he got to read it. Another friend of mine, Kaustubh, he got to read it. And they liked it. And so that gave me some kind of courage. And I thought, well, let me try another short story. So then I attempted this other short story called Bundhur Pantha, which becomes The Difficult Path. That was well received as well. So that gave me even more courage. And I thought, let me now, with deep breath, with very deep breath, attempt a novella. Now, this was a major undertaking because I had never translated a novel before. About 20 years ago, I had translated a short story by Shubodh Ghosh called Hotat Godhuli. But that was 20, well, actually, even more than 20 years ago. So I had really not done much translation, not done any translation since then. So for me to attempt to translate a novella, I thought was a major undertaking, and I thought, well, let me try it. It may work, it may not work, and so I did that too. And once that was done, I got very greedy, and I decided, well, why don't I publish it? So I started to write an introduction. Mind you, that I had no particular publisher in mind. It was just that since my previous non fiction book had been done by Niyogi, I decided, and they are such an amazing publisher. I thought that maybe I should approach Niyogi. If they don't like it, I had some other publishers in mind, but Niyogi was really my number one. So imagine my utter delight when they asked me to send the manuscript, and I sent it over and they approved of it, and the result is this book. What can I say about Krishna Gopal that I have not already said in my various previous videos and talks that I have given about him? Not much really. I constantly keep talking about the way in which here is a writer that, you know, I think is so completely immersed in one particular part of Calcutta that I think that the more I read Krishna Gopal Mollik, the more I fall in love with that part of Calcutta, which actually happens to be my part of Calcutta, which is North Calcutta. And one particular part of North Calcutta, which is the area in and around Calcutta University. So College Square, Shujosen Street, which is where he was born, which is where he grew up, which is where he lived, and which is where he died. Well, I mean, he died in a hospital, but you know, his final days were actually spent at that address. The house is not in a very good shape. It is crumbling. It is still there. And I hope, so help me God, to do a Krishna Gopal Mollik walk. And that walk will be based roughly on his short story Bondhur Pantha, The Difficult Path. Because that short story is really about Krishna Gopal Mollik taking a walk. And it is such a city short story. It is such a Kolkata short story. It is such a North Kolkata short story that I cannot imagine anybody reading it and not wanting to take that walk for themselves. So who knows? Maybe a few years down the line, those who are offering various Kolkata walks will start offering a special Krishna Gopal Mollik Kolkata walk. A little challenging was for me to translate Senior Citizen because this is the first time that I was reading a short story in which an older man was talking very frankly, a Bengali older man, you know, a married, middle class Bengali older man, was talking so frankly about his desire for young men. I couldn't believe it when I was reading it. And I thought, would Niyogi be willing to include this in the book? I was very scared. And I salute Niyogi for their courage in including this. Much easier was the decision to translate the novella, which is absolutely radiant. If anybody wishes to understand what was it like, what was it like to be alive as a child, as a teenager during the 1940s. Well, actually, you know, this is set sometime, yeah. So Krishna Gopal Mollik himself would be sort of 11, 12 years old in the 40s, which is when this is happening. So I think it is really wonderful to really try and understand how this young boy is reacting to the way in which major national events are unfolding. You know, you have the freedom struggle, you've got the refugee crisis, and it is all, you know, narrated in great, vivid detail. Krishna Gopal Mollik is a very difficult writer to classify because I myself have difficulty understanding whether he is um, an autobiographer, whether he is a fiction writer, um, because of the very simple reason that even in his fiction, and he calls them fiction, he actually calls them upannash, so he calls them novels. And in the novel, there is going to be a character called Krishna Gopal Mollik. So what do I make of this? How do I understand it? Is it fiction? Is it non-fiction? Is it faction? We don't know. And I think it is this difficulty to classify Krishna Gopal Mollik, which is definitely a part of his charm. And I think this is also what kind of makes him queer, doesn't it? Because surely queerness is about disregarding binaries. So isn't Krishna Gopal Mollik disregarding that binary? The binary between, you know, fiction and non-fiction? between fact and fiction? Isn't that binary not being challenged by him? And of course, there are many other binaries that are challenged by him. The binary of heterosexual, homosexual, the binary of being a family man and a rebel, the binary of belonging to the establishment or not belonging to the establishment, the binary of being rich and poor, the binary of being central and marginalized. All of these binaries are dealt with by Krishnagopal Mollik, but they are dealt with a peculiar kind of lack of self consciousness. When he's writing, there hardly ever seems to be the idea that, oh, I'm doing something rebellious. He simply says, I'm doing something that I felt I really had to do. That is all. He is not here to change the society. He is not here to establish himself as a major public figure. He is simply here to do what he thinks he should be doing. The transformation of Krishnagopal Mollik from being clearly an upper class, you know, well educated, he went to presidency, well educated young man who worked as the sub editor at the Statesman, used to wear, three-piece suits and used to drink at the best clubs and all of that. So, I mean, you can imagine a very, very sort of sophisticated, upper class, privileged lifestyle. And then to suddenly give it all up, to suddenly resign from the Statesman, and then to start wearing a potua, like a shirt and a lungi. That's it. To give it all up and then to start wearing a potua and a lungi, to set up a printing press at his home, to print what? Magazines that very few people read, little magazines. And then to bind them, proofread them. What was he on about? What was this drive which was propelling him towards making such a clean break from this glamorous life that he had led to a distinctly unglamorous life that he started to lead? Surely there was major opposition from the family. A lot of people were very, very worried that they are going to be thrust into poverty. And I dare say, living under those circumstances couldn't have been that easy. But he just did what he had to do, disregarding all sensible advice. He did what he had to do. Anyway, enough about the man. Let me read out some of what he has written. And I think what I would really want to do over here is read out something that I was very, very excited about. I'm just going to try to find out. Well, actually, why not? Let me just sort of read from the beginning of the novella, Entering the Maze. Entering the Maze. Herein will be found a boy whom everyone knows, but who has never before appeared in print. This novella has to be read at one sitting, from beginning till end. Random, occasional dips into it are harmful. Where are you off to? To the playground with them. The school playground. No, the one with the small pond. Cricket match. Cricket. Want to have your head smashed by a cricket ball, I suppose. Get inside. No, they will play. I will watch. I don't want to hear another word. Get right in. Cricket indeed. That too at Strodhananda Park, after crossing that road. Want to get run over by a car, I suppose. You are not stepping out of the house. And yet they stood by the meat shop, where they realized that I was not going anywhere. Shambhu, stuck out his tongue at me. Shomir made an arm in the shape of a crane as an insult. After turning his back to me before walking away, Nikhil made the gesture of a back kick. Entering the house, I sit down on the patterned mat, my back resting on the wooden railings, turn to the street, legs tucked under me, my body aflame with anger and sadness. Had that person not been senior to me, oh, when will I be able to say, yes, I will go out? I will go out 1,000 times. I will do as I please. And those, did they feel no pity for me, seeing that I couldn't go? What's more, they made fun of me. I'm not speaking to them anymore. Even if they all come begging to me, even if they plead with me, I will not speak to them even if they fall at my feet. I felt calmer. They must have formed teams by now. Who's batting? Have they really started playing, or are they standing by the railings, bat and ball in hand, because they haven't yet got a spot? That must be it. They must have not got a spot yet. Serves them right. I felt even calmer now. Why am I sitting? Let's go collect subscriptions. Past the stairs, straight to the second floor. I pick up the book of receipts, thin blue sheets typed out by the stenotypist man at Snow White Food Products, and try to decide whom to go to first. And then straight to the shop of the Poddars, one house down that way. Poddarji, subscription. What subscription you'd get? We are starting a badminton club. Have to buy a dozen shuttlecocks. Where will you play? In the courtyard of your house? Will the girls play too? No, the school playground. Classmates will play. Very good. I will certainly pay you subscription. Let me finish cutting the silver. Hmm, You have grown quite a bit. Why do you still wear shorts? Hmm? What's the matter? Why are you fidgeting? Told you I'll pay. What happened? How have you grown? Hmm. Let's see how much you have grown. Get in there. I'm coming. As if it went without saying, after glancing at the street, I go behind the safe. I stand with my face to the wall. My shorts are in my hands. Shutting the iron barred gate of the shop, Poddar walks over to behind the safe. Keeping an eye on the street and the shop by craning above the safe, he starts to hold me from the back. But not for more than 3 to 4 minutes. Moaning and groaning. No sooner does he touch me there than I feel drops of him on my thighs and calves. I hold still. Poddar rubs me down with his thin cotton towel. There's more. Where, dear Mullik? Lower down. Okay, getting there. He bends down and even wipes the soles of my feet twice. I put on my shorts and come outside, hidden behind Poddar. On giving me 2 annas from his container of loose change, I carefully make out a receipt in his name. Then I extend my hand. Give me some silver. Hmm, you want silver? What will you do with it? Are you going to make earrings for your sister? Bring your sister one day. I will give you tons of silver. Gold, too. I emerge from the shop with 2 annas and a bit of silver. I come home and tot up the total amount of subscription received and how much more is needed to buy half a dozen feathers for the shuttlecocks. Then, while putting today's bit of silver in my small tin box, I empty out the box onto my palm and try to gauge how much silver I have collected so far. What do you think? What I was really struck by, I'm sure you were too, is the absolute deadpan narration. The narrative is completely deadpan. No sense of trauma, no sense of pain, no sense of guilt, entirely matter of fact, as if this is the world's most normal, common thing and deserves no further comment. It is this that I thought was so revolutionary. It is this that completely blew my mind. I don't know whether you have ever come across such a narrative in your reading, but I certainly haven't. And I felt that this astonishing voice needed to be made available to as many people as possible. 20 years ago today, Krishna Gopal Mollick's life ended. But thanks to Niyogi, his words have now traveled to another language and will now be made available to the entire world. I hope you get your copy of the book as soon as it becomes available, and then I'd be perfectly happy to have maybe another session in which I'm going to take your questions. Thank you very much, and I'm going to see you again very soon.